You don't own the car in your driveway anymore. Not really. Its software is licensed to you, one update at a time, and the company that wrote it can switch off a feature you paid for with a single line of code. Your photos live on someone else's servers. The tools you use to make a living run on someone else's terms of service. Ownership, the thing the middle class was built on, has quietly become something else, a subscription. This isn't only about gadgets, it's the whole architecture of how we hold things. Software you buy stops working the day you stop paying. Media you purchase can vanish from your library overnight because you never owned a copy, you rented a permission. The old deal was pay once, own the thing, do what you want with it. The new deal is pay forever or lose access entirely. That shift didn't arrive with a referendum. It arrived one terms of service update at a time. Here is what that shift looks like in the numbers that are supposed to define middle-class stability. In 1985, a typical American home cost about 3.5 times the median household income. Today, it costs 5 times that income, the highest ratio ever recorded. And the gap is accelerating. Between 2019 and 2022 alone, home prices rose 43%. Wages rose 7%. This is not a story about people spending too much on coffee. It is a story about the price of a stake in the economy rising faster than the wages the economy pays for work. Meanwhile, a small number of companies have positioned themselves as toll booths on nearly everything we do online. Every transaction, every scroll, every search passes through infrastructure someone else owns and someone else charges for. This is not so different from the oldest economic relationship there is, a landlord controlling access to a resource everyone needs and collecting rent for the privilege of using it, the resource used to be land. Now it's attention, data, and the platforms that convert both into revenue. You don't have to be poor to be a tenant in this system. You just have to be logged in. The subscription economy, the mechanism behind all of this, was worth about $492 billion in 2024. It's on track to pass $550 billion this year, and analysts expect it to climb past $1 trillion sometime in the next decade. That's not a niche business model anymore. It is becoming the default relationship between people and the tools, media, and services they depend on every day, a permanent compounding revenue stream flowing in one direction. Look at where the money actually accumulates, not spread across a broad middle class of companies, but concentrated inside a handful of campuses, glass buildings in California and Washington State, that now function less like corporate offices and more like capital cities of a new kind of economy. The businesses headquartered there don't primarily make physical things you can hold. They make the platforms everything else runs through. And the more of daily life that moves onto those platforms, your shopping, your entertainment, your work, the more of the economy's value flows toward the campuses, and the less flows toward everyone else standing outside the gates. Seven companies now account for roughly a third of the entire value of the S&P 500, the index that represents the backbone of the American economy. A decade ago, that same handful of companies made up about 1/8 of it. That's not organic, broad-based growth. That's concentration, the value of an entire economy, increasingly captured by an increasingly small number of owners. And this is where the feudal comparison stops being a metaphor and starts being a description. In a feudal system, wealth wasn't earned through open competition. It was extracted through control of a scarce, essential resource that most people had no choice but to use. Land then, platforms now. The people who own the infrastructure don't need to outcompete you. They just need you to keep needing what they control. Every subscription renewal, every platform fee, every algorithm you can't opt out of is a small, quiet transfer of value from the many people who use the system to the few who own it. The result shows up at the very top. The wealthiest 1% of Americans now hold almost a third of the country's entire net worth, $52 trillion, the highest share ever measured. In 1989, that same 1% held about 23%. The share has grown almost every year since, not because the rest of the economy stopped producing value, because more and more of the value produced gets captured before it ever reaches the people who produced it. None of this required a conspiracy. It required only that ownership be replaceable by access, that access be billed monthly, and that enough of daily life move onto a small number of platforms that the people who own them could simply wait for the rent to come in. The middle class didn't lose a possession. It lost the thing that made the middle class a class at all, a stake in the assets that generate value, instead of a permanent bill for the privilege of using them. Feudalism didn't end. It just stopped needing land. The question is no longer what you own. It's who decided that you shouldn't.